Hi, in this video, I'm going to show you how to deploy a custom container to Azure App Service with using GitHub Actions. As you see in this PPT depicts my demo. Here, I'm going to show you how you can use GitHub, GitHub Actions, Azure Container Registry, and Azure Web App to do the required, a custom container-based Azure App Service deployment with using GitHub Actions, right? So here I have depicted this design diagram in the form of multiple steps here. So okay, totally here we have 5 steps. So as you see here, there are 4 important components here. One is the GitHub repository. You have the GitHub Actions. You have the Azure Container Registry and the Azure Web App Service, right? So here the flow of this demo is something like this. Here a developer who is actually working on a particular web application will be working with multiple codes, and at the end of his completion of the code, what he do is he will going to commit the code to the GitHub, right, which is a source code actually, right? So this is he's going to commit his changes to the source code, that is source code repository, that is a GitHub here, right? That's the first step. Say whenever there is a update or whenever there is a commit to the source code happens, automatically there will be a GitHub action which will be hosted in the GitHub repository, or a GitHub action which is defined in the same GitHub repository will get invoked, right? So this GitHub action workflow will be defined with a certain steps which actually does things something like this. Yeah, for example, you will say GitHub actions to log into the ACR, build the image, push the image to the that is Azure Container Registry, and then also you will also tell the GitHub actions to just to deploy this image to the Azure Web App. Okay, so that's all definitions will be written in the GitHub actions. Okay, so now that is where the step number 3 generates, that is it actually builds the Docker images of your application and pushes the image to the Azure Container Registry, right? So that is the step number 3. Once the image gets pushed to the Azure Container Registry, you have an on the right side you have the Azure Web App Service. When you creating the Azure Web App Service, you will point the Azure Web App Service in a such a way that the deployment center of this Azure Web App Service is nothing but it is coming from a particular Azure Container Registry. The name of the Azure Container Registry is something like this, and it has the image name, and these are the tags. Okay, all these credentials will be configured in the Azure Web App Service. Okay, so that deployment definitions makes the Azure Web App Service to pull the image from the container registry, and and also create a web application out of that image basically. Okay, so once this process gets completed, the end to end, the development of application, converting that application to image, pushing that image into the Azure Container Registry, then creating a Azure Web App which is called as a container Azure Web App to the Azure Web App Services, right? So which will ultimately make your web app been running on this PaaS service, that is a Azure App Service, yeah, or you can call it as a platform as a service, right? So then actually the Azure Web App will be exposing an endpoint, that is URL. If you go and browse the URL in your browser, you will gonna see your web application working something like this. That is the end product of this demo. Yeah, so basically this is a complete walkthrough of my demo here, right? So I'm going to show you like how did I set up this one, where is the changes are required, and how do we need to write the GitHub action files, or how you can define the Azure Container Registry, how to how to configure the Azure Web Apps. Everything will be I will show in this video demo from scratch to end. Okay, so before I walk you through that complete configuration steps and also showing a demo, kindly a kind request, basically do do subscribe my channel. That would really encourage me a lot. Yeah, so okay, so with that note, we go to the my Azure portal. So basically I go to the my Azure portal here. So this is my GitHub repository. I will come back to this one, and in the another tab I have my Microsoft Azure portal, which is the my subscription actually. So in this I have a subscription name called cloudquicklabs, which is my channel name actually. In this one I have created a resource group, that is cloudquicklab RG, right? So in this resource group, I have 3 resources basically, right? So in that one, it shows one is the app service plan, app service, and then you have container registry. Okay, so basically these are the 3 main players here. One is Azure Container Registry, which is meant to store the private repository, private images, container images. The Azure App Service or our web app service is actually, it contains the web app servers and the front end application basically, right? So here the app service plan is nothing but it's like a web app machine definition, this one. And the app service is actually a front end page. Okay, basically you can call it like that. Yeah, so these resources are already been created. Now I'm going to use this to show this particular demo, right? So how you can use the GitHub Actions to do orchestrate the life cycle of your application from development to final stage of deployment to the production, for example, say. Yeah, so that's the main aim of this demo. Yeah, so here, before I walk you through the GitHub Action definitions, let me show you how did I create Azure Container Registry and what did I do. Yeah, so basically, if I go to the Azure Container Registry, something like that, you can just search like Container Registry. So here we have the Container Registry. Click on this one. So we have already been created this one. So how did I create it again is just click on the button create, right? So then here you're gonna select the resource group like this. Give your name, which should be unique one. Test, test ACR cloud quick labs. Yeah, right. And then you will choose the North Europe. Basically this is the reason where actually my this is the reason where actually my resource group is sitting. So that's the reason the resource group, let it be in the location of North Europe, and the scope will be, let it be standard. Yeah, click on next. Keep the networking default, encryption also default, no tags. Just review and create it. Yeah, all right. So once the validation is passed, you can click on button create, which eventually takes you to the resource, something like this, which I have already created. I'm not going to create it again, right? So here, after the container registry gets created, you click on access keys. Here you need to enable admin user. So earlier, before enabling the admin user, you will not see the downwards options here. Once you enable the admin user, the user name of the ACR server and the passwords will be populated. Basically, you need to take these in a notepad plus plus, something like this. Okay, for example, say I have taken in a notepad plus plus. Let me open that. So if I open this one, so I have taken to this one somewhere else here. So like this. Yeah, so for example, say ACR user name. Yeah, so this is my ACR username and one password. Actually it creates a 2 password. Basically you can use only one password. So take a note of the password first one, right? And just keep the record of this one. So why I'm keeping this in the notepad plus plus, because we're going to use this to configure at a GitHub Actions. Okay, where I'm going to explain in the next seconds. Okay, in few seconds. So this is the all about container registry. Okay, so once this is ready, then this container registry is ready to publish the custom container images to this private repository from GitHub Actions. Okay, now I will take you to the another service called App Service. Okay, so this is Azure App Service. You click on this Azure App Service. We already have an app service with a plan, right? So how to create this one? So basically click on this one, click on create. Yeah, and then you're gonna choose the resource group, which is the same resource group. You need to give a unique app name, say like container app service CQ cloud quick labs. Yeah, so this is the unique name I have given here. Okay, so this has been validated in the sense this domain name is available. Basically that's what it means. And in this publish, you're going to choose the Docker container operating system, let it be Linux. Reason you should choose the North region, because wherever your container registry is there, you need to create a web app belongs to the same region as well. So you're going to choose that. And the pricing plan, let it be default, that is basic one. Since this is a demo, you can choose the basic one. But in production, you need to design. Okay, you need to understand the the configurations of basic plans. like it provides the this much RAM and this much RAM and this much CPU. So you can you can predict the how much resource you need, and based on that you can choose the plan. Right, so for now I have chosen the B1 plan. Actually, I'll go next to the Docker. So in this one, this is very critical step you need to follow. Here you're gonna choose a single container. Then the image source, you have a couple of image sources here. So we're gonna choose Azure Container Registry because this demo is for Azure Container Registry. And then in this one, you see, since my Azure Container Registry already hosting the images, it's going to it's showing it's ready-made, or else it becomes mandatory for you to create an image, publish the image into the container registry. Then only you can use Azure Container Registry. Okay, so without a without an image, you cannot use the container registry directly in the create web app page. Actually, in the sense, basically the prerequisite you need to have a prerequisite here is you need to have a ACR with an image already been published into that ACR. Actually, then only you can use it here. Okay, so that's the reason. If I can open in another tab, I go to the ACR. So there I'm going to show you that the ACR is already right. So ACR, if I choose ACR, it's not identifying. All right, let me search it as a container registry. So where is my container registry? This is a container registry. So if I open this one, you go to the repositories. So here is the repository. Right, so there is already one app, there's a repository called my app already been published. Okay, so basically this is what it means. Without a repository, in the ACR, you cannot use it in the create web app operations. Okay, so basically you must have a repository in the container registry, then only you can use it here. Okay, that's the reason it is being presenting here. And then you can choose the tag whichever, or just say whatever it is. Yeah, latest one. Yeah, and then keep the startup command as default equal to whatever it is, and then go next. Yeah, click on next. For now, if I go back, so for now you are keeping the latest tag, but as you go on, you modify your application, the image version also gets updated, and that will be automatically deployed by using the GitHub Actions. I'm going to show you that how we can do that. Click on next configurations, keep it default. Monitoring also you don't need to for now because this is a demo. Right, so I'm going to go to the next to the tags. Basically it is validating. Yeah, so we go to the next tags, review and create. Okay, so once the validating is passed, yeah, so it looks to be passed, so click on create button. You will be taken to the web app, something like this. Okay, so basically since this is a C# web app or .NET web app, the the boot time of the web application will take certain time, or it will take, or you can call it as a, the application will be cold start, so you need to wait for certain time. Yeah, maybe nearby 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah, all right, so basically this is what the setup is all about of my Azure web app and my container registry. Okay, so this is the resources on the Azure cloud side. Right, now I'm going to take you to the my Azure my GitHub repository. Basically, so this is my organization. In this organization I have a repository called Azure GitHub Action OIDC Connect. Okay, I have used this repository for explaining you how you can use the Azure based OIDC connection. Right, so same app, same repository I'm using it here. Now as you see in this repository, this repository contains workflows. Basically it has 3 workflows. I'm going to explain these, what are these. Right, and also you see there is a .NET, so don't go with the name .NET. So basically this is the folder which is actually hosting a .NET application or C# application basically. Yeah, and the source code is kept in a sample web app. So basically this sample web app is contains a C# project. Actually I'm not going to explain all this because this is purely developer job. Actually it contains the pages and www root pages as well. You see there are error and index C# HTML pages. I will go back. Then you have a www root folder as well. Similarly, okay, so basically this is the our sample app configurations, and there is a one file called Docker file. Okay, so basically this is the file which actually helpful to us, and we need to understand how does it works. Okay, so this is all about my GitHub repository explanation. Now I have already cloned this repository in my VS Code. I'm going to explain the rest part from here, right? So I have already cloned that repository. You see Azure GitHub Action OIDC Connect repository name, and I'm currently in only one branch because as of now I have only one branch. But at the production you need to have three branches. Basically, one is the default branch, development UAT branch, and then a master branch or main branch. Yeah. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain you the two scenario here. Okay. So one is how do you publish a custom container image to the ACR with using GitHub Actions, and then how you can, after that, how you can deploy that image directly to the Azure Web App Service. So basically I have segregated these two scenarios into two YAML files. I'm going to take you to that. So first one, let's see how you can build a Docker image dynamically from the GitHub Actions, publish into the public Docker hub, and from there how you can push that image into the Azure Container Registry. Okay, so basically here what you do is GitHub Action itself creates a Docker image and keeps that image into a local GitHub Container Registry. From there it will upload the image to the Azure Container Registry. Okay, so those are all the steps are being documented here. I'm going to walk you through that, how does it works. Basically, as it say, this is a Linux container image and pushes to the ACR. This is the name. And on workflow dispatch is basically, this is, which actually tells, you can invoke this GitHub Actions manually, basically, because I have kept it manually only. And in this one jobs, I have kept the job very minimum job here. Here, we are using the runs on, which is basically the GitHub Action machine, which is a Microsoft managed GitHub Action machine, right? That is Ubuntu latest. In the defaults, we're gonna giving some runtime defaults. That is, it should use the shell bash, and then working directory is .NET. So here in my repository, you have a folder called .NET, and that is the place actually this GitHub Action has to run. Okay. Then I will go to the steps. It has two steps basically, three steps basically. One is it will check out this complete repository, which is nothing but cloning the repository, and then you are actually running GitHub Action called, or GitHub API called Docker Azure Docker login. Okay, so this is explicit login, like how you can log in the Azure, how you can log in the GitHub Container Registry. Likewise, you can also log in to Azure Container Registry with using this endpoint, that is a Azure/Docker login @version 1. So this is the GitHub Action which will help you to log into the publicly available publicly available Azure Container Registry. Okay, so here it needs a parameters, that is login server name, and this is nothing but this is the ACR server name. I will take you back to the registry here. So in this registry, if you go to the securities or access keys, in this one you see there are three credentials. One is the server name, this is the server name, and then this is the username and password. Okay, that's all. That's what we have configured here basically. This is the registry username, this is the password. We have configured these username and password in a GitHub Actions GitHub Action secrets. I'm going to show you that as well. Okay, so this is the steps. You are logging to that particular ACR, and then you are running two commands. One command is actually to build it with a tag and then push the same image to the ACR. Okay, so how we are building is, you see, we are using the Docker command because basically GitHub Actions are installed with the Docker actually. So you can directly jump ahead and use the Docker commands. That is Docker build dot, which is nothing but which tells you that, hey, just go and run the Docker files present in this particular repository, particular working directory. Yeah, that is PWD, that is present working directory. So this is a present working directory, that is .NET. If you go back here in this .NET directory or folder, you have a file called Docker file. Okay, that is what it means with this annotation. And then you have a T, and then you are tagging it basically with using this name, that is my app, and then you are giving tagging the each my app repository images with a GitHub SHA, which is a signature basically. Yeah? So okay, this is what it does in the build, and then you are doing a image push. Okay, so basically Docker build and Docker push is happening from the GitHub Actions. Okay, this is very simple one. Okay, all right, so now I will take you to the Docker file. So this is the Docker file which actually creates a container image of this particular web application. Okay, so this is a magic. Okay, this is new thing. Okay, so basically your all front end code, or basically your source code is being kept in a particular repository, a particular folder, and then underneath the direct underneath the direct subfolder of the source code, you're keeping a Docker file which actually builds a container image out of this source folder. Yeah, so here something like this. Okay, you are using the from keyword pointing to this microsoft.com .net APIs, yeah, as a base, and then you are creating inside this one, inside this image, you are creating a directory, or there will be a directory called app, and you are exposing that app in port number 80. And then from this repository again you are doing the source, and actually you are copying the the project folders. Okay, if I can go down, you have a sample web app dot C# project. Okay, this file will be copied here, with using this Docker file, and that is what it actually Docker file does for you. It's copy this, it actually copies this particular file into this sample project, yeah, and runs the .NET. In the sense, it actually runs a .NET restore. In the sense, it actually building a project, copies the everything been built there. Working directory is this one. Then you are running the .NET build. In the sense, you are basically, when you say Docker image, in the sense you are creating a container image in which you are cooking actually basically a web app. Okay, and with that web app will be hosted in a container basic. That's what it happens. Yeah, all right, so this is what it happens. And then again you are running a from build from publish, basically .NET publish command will be run here, and then from base final, basically you are creating a final working directory, this one, and that's the place where you are actually publishing your DDL file. Okay, this is where the entry point, actually that is a sample web app DDL file will be created. Okay, so this is how Docker file helps you to build a container image which will be used to host in the Azure web app. Yeah, all right, so this is the same Docker file we will use in both the pipelines. So this pipeline I have already walked through this one. So let's see how does it works. Then I'm going to explain the other file. I'm going to show you that. Okay, so basically once this code is synchronized. Okay, this code is already been synchronized in the upstream GitHub repository. This is my GitHub repository, and this is the workflow name which gets appear here. Okay, build a Linux container image on and push ACR. Okay, so I'm going to run this now. So let's see how does it run. So basically I have only one branch called main, so I'm running this directly from there, and we should see a run now. So here if I click this and if I open this, right, so meanwhile I will take you to this one. So go to the repository and see how many image copy we have. So I will go to the repositories, and we have a repository called web app, my app. So currently it has 3 images, 3 tag count. Now we should have tag count 4. Okay, that's what I'm going to show you. So currently it is building. Yeah, so you see this is currently building the image, and this is what it happening. This is purely live demo that you can feel the experience. That's a hands-on experience out of my channel. Here you go. This was very fast, and actually it has built and successfully uploaded the image. And if I refresh, we should see the tag count getting changed. So if I can refresh it, I should see the image being updated. Here you go. So manifest count is changed now, 3 2 to 4. Okay, so basically, yeah, so I'm gonna refresh it now. So basically you see the count got changed. So if I open this one, so you have the manifest count is now changed. In the sense, you have the 4 manifest. Earlier it was 3, now it got changed. Yeah, and then now we're gonna see the how does the tag is being applied on this one, that is being consumed in the web app. Okay, so I'm gonna make a custom changes in the repository, and we see that is being replicated here. Okay, so for now if I open this web app, this is it showing me message called welcome to the cloudquicklabs. Okay, now let's say you want to make some changes. Okay, how quickly you can bring it to the production. Okay, that is what that is what container, custom container images brings that kind of advantage. It brings that kind of real-time advantages. In the sense, you can develop it real time and move that feature to the production as soon as possible. Yeah, all right, so now I will take you to the another YAML file or another GitHub Actions. This is just a copy of another one, but bit extended. Okay, so if I can go up, so here it contains, this is the name, It is also getting invoked on dispatch, workflow dispatch. And then you have a permissions, because here in for this GitHub action, I'm using OIDC Connect based authentication. If you want to see how to connect to Azure with using OIDC Connect, please do watch my previous video where I have explained everything from the scratch. Here I'm not going to tell much anything about here, right? So I'm going to go to the jobs. So here you are doing a build and deploy of the container images to the Azure Web App. So here it runs on the Ubuntu latest. You see it is runs on Ubuntu latest. Then it has a default configurations, that is run on bash and working directory is .NET. Right, in the steps you have a couple of steps here. One is check out the code, right? And basically it actually check out the main branch. Okay, you see this is the name of my GitHub action, and this is the API of the GitHub action. I will call it as a API for generalization. Yeah. And then you are actually logging into the Azure Web App. In the sense, you are taking access to your Azure subscription to do the actual job. Okay, that is deploy your application. Yeah. So here what you are doing is you are using the Azure login CLI, which is actually consuming the OIDC Connect, that is with using the SPN client IDs, client secret, right? And here there is no secret, but just IDs, client ID, tenant ID, and subscription ID. Yeah, I'm going to show this how I kept it in the secrets of the GitHub Actions. And then this is the same command which I explained in the previous step, that is creating and creating a modified image and publishing the image into the container registry. And this is the final step that is extra in this GitHub action, that is actually deploys the container image to a web app. Yeah. And here basically you see it uses the Azure Web App Deploy version 2 with parameters like it actually consumes only one thing different, that is you just need to give your web application name. That's all. You don't need to give a full name, but just what is the name of your web app you have given while creating. That's all you need to give. This is your web app name, and this is your web app service name, and you are giving it here. That's all. And then you are giving the image, images, basically which image out of your registry. In the sense, this is first one. You see the first one tells the registry name, that is Azure Container Registry name, and the next one tells you the repository name, and then / with the, that is a tag. Okay, which image it has to use it to deploy. Okay, that is the path of the image, basically you can call it. And finally we are running a command called az logout to end the session. Okay, so this is the all about the configurations. Okay, now what I do is I'm going to make some dummy changes in the pages. Okay, so I will go to the this index.html file. So I will tell you, welcome to the Cloud Quick Labs. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some exclamatory mark here, just to make sure that the changes are getting replicated. Building web app with .NET Core, right? Containers, I'm just going to add some extra message like containers. Demo, I'm going to add. Yeah, so I'm going to add these custom messages. Okay, basically I'm making some changes. Okay, so for now, if you go back to the web app, this web app contains this straightforward message. Now we have added some explanatory mark, and below that we are also adding certain certain links as well. Yeah, and that's what I'm going to show, that the changes getting replicated here. So I will go to the source control, commit the change. Yeah, I will say custom changes. So basically I'm a developer now, I'm making changes to the C# application, my sample web application. Okay, you can think like that, right? See how quickly I can bring this change into my Azure web app. Okay, so that is the agility that I'm getting with this method. So I have just synchronized my changes to my GitHub branch. Now I'm going to invoke the registry, basically the workflow. So this is the deploy container image Azure web app workflow. I go to the run on workflow. I'm going to choose this branch main, click on run workflow, because I have purposefully configured to invoke this GitHub actions manually. Yeah, for some because it is a demo, but in production you can make the changes as requested. Yeah, all right. So basically this is currently running all those steps which I have walked you through. That is this is the steps. Yeah, don't worry. So basically this repository link will be shared in GitHub, in my videos description. You can find it from there and try to mimic it from your side as well. Okay, all right. So now let's see how quickly it does the job for me. Currently it is doing the run docker build. Yeah, and then it is actually doing the actually it is pushing the image to the ACR. Okay, and then here you go. So basically, it just has completed the job now. Now it is pushing the image to the ACR. You see, pushed, yeah. Okay, all right. So now it is running the deploy. Okay, so basically it should be very quick. Here you go. It has updated the image. Yeah. So I'm going to walk you through this code as well. So basically it is very quick. You see, it has completed right now. Here you go. It has successfully built the image and pushed the image into the Azure web app. Yeah. So these are the steps it has already ran successfully. I'm going to show you this one in the web app. Azure web app deploy version 2. So you see it is doing it is actually creating the Linux server name, ACR link, everything, blah blah, and updating basically it is actually updating the app service configuration setting and starting the web app, starting the app service. Deployment is passed, everything. So basically it is doing the required task on the Azure web app to make it use the latest image out of the container registry, right? So if I go here and refresh it now, we should see tags count getting 4. So you see it's 3, but it should be 4. I'm going to show you that. So if I refresh it now, tag, we should see some tag 4. Yeah, here you go. The tag is 4 now, right? Manifest is always one step ahead. Okay, no worries for that. Now my app is already been deployed. So if I refresh it, I should see the changes being replicated here now. Here you go. The changes are coming now, right? So this is the exclamatory mark which I have added extra, and I also added a extra word that is a container demo. Yeah. So basically the changes are getting replicated on my Azure web app, and that is happening very instantly. Everything is CI/CD here, right? So basically only 2 resources are being created manually. Everything is managed with using GitHub Actions, and that too credential-less deployment. Yeah, credential-less managing your application. All right. So with that note, I have successfully shown you the things to be shown in this video from scratch to end. Okay, so finally, a kind request, please do subscribe my channel. That would really encourage me a lot. So with that note, thank you, thanks a lot, and see you in the next video.